What's up, guys? Today's June 26, 2021. I decided after the live stream I did last night where we had a caller from Canada call in and talk about what's going on up there, I decided to do an episode on this because I think it's really important as Americans that we look to what's going on in Canada because they are, in fact, our neighbor to the north. We have the longest unsecured border with them, and there is no wall. There is no talks of a wall. There is no... It's really a very lax border. That's something that we need to be concerned about as Americans. Let's just get right into it. So this is an article actually coming from Bloomberg. Trudeau's party passes bill to regulate social media streaming. It goes on to say Canadian lawmakers passed a controversial bill that aims to regulate programming distributed by media streaming services and social platforms like Facebook and YouTube, a measure that critics warn could infringe on individual speech. The legislation drafted by Justin Trudeau's government, known as Bill C-10, is meant to subject tech giants to the same requirements as traditional broadcasters, effectively compelling companies like Netflix and TikTok to finance and promote Canadian content. It's among the most far-reaching plans by governments anywhere to regulate the algorithms tech companies use to amplify or recommend comment. Trudeau's government hailed its passage, quote, "There are other issues we have to address when it comes to broadcasting and creation, and we will," said Minister Stephen Guilbeault, can't say that name, said during the final debate Monday evening. Quote, "Bill C-10 is a first step in that direction." Supporters say the requirements fall well short of censorship because users could continue to post content freely. That misses the point, critics say, because controlling which content is amplified or drowned out still constitutes government controlling speech. Quote, "From my view, that's pretty clear government regulation of speech, saying some content gets prioritized and other content gets deprioritized." The Conservatives, who are the main opposition, have come out publicly against Bill C-10, and its members voted against it. The bill was passed, though, by legislators on Tuesday morning at 1:30 a.m. Ottawa time in a 196 to 112 vote. And last but not least, this dangerous quote down here. "We all know that the American cultural invasion is powerful and that it can steamroll any culture on the planet," said Guilbeault in the legislature, as Canada is being completely and totally absorbed by the CCP in every aspect. And we'll talk about that in just a second. But right behind Bill C-10, they come out with Bill C-36. And what exactly is Bill C-36? Well, let's take a look at it. The trend in all this legislation is clear: more government control, less freedom, and C-36 takes that to a terrible new level. The Liberals have introduced Bill C-36, which they claim is aimed at countering, quote, online hate. What is online hate?
What's the difference between hate speech and speech that you hate?
Bill C-36 would allow a person to appear before a provincial court with the Attorney General's consent if the person fears that another will commit an offense, quote, motivated by bias, prejudice, or hate based on race, national or ethnic origin, language, color, religion, sex, age, mental or physical disability, sexual orientation, gender identity or expression, or any other similar factor. So pretty much anything.
What's the difference between hate speech and speech that you hate?
If you say something that somebody deems as hateful, you can some way twist it so that it fits under this bill. So what does the bill do? Now, keep in mind, this is a bill for fear of it happening. Almost like Minority Report. Remember that Tom Cruise movie, Precogs? The three girls laying in the water, and they could predict crime, and the little ball comes down and has a name on it, and all the people come swooping in, and, hey, you're under arrest because you were about to commit a crime. You didn't do it yet, but you were about to, so let's put on the halo, lock you up, and recognizance you. And ironically, that's what they call it here. Fear of hate propaganda offense or hate crime, 810.012. A person with the Attorney General's consent lay an information before a provincial court judge if the person fears on reasonable grounds that another person will commit an offense under Section 318 or Section 319, an offense under Section 430, an offense motivated by bias, prejudice, or hate based on religion, national or ethnic origin, language, color, race, religion, sex, age, mental or physical disability, sexual orientation, gender identity or expression, or any other similar factor. The adjudication If the provincial court judge before whom the parties appear is satisfied by the evidence adduced that the informant has reasonable grounds for the fear, the judge may order that the defendant enter into a recognizance to keep the peace and be of good behavior for a period of not more than 12 months. One more time. What's hate speech?
What's the difference between hate speech and speech that you hate?
Refusal to enter into recognizance. So what happens if you refuse all this? The provincial court judge may commit the defendant to prison for a term of not more than 12 months if the defendant fails or refuses to enter into the recognizance. So here they're saying that just based on fear, red flag laws, fear that you may not even commit a crime, but do something that they label as hateful, they can put you into a reconditioning camp. Let's just call it what it is, a reconditioning camp. And if you refuse to go, they'll put you in prison. The provincial court judge may add any reasonable conditions to the recognizance that the judge considers desirable to secure the good conduct of the defendant, including conditions that A, require the defendant to wear an electronic monitoring device if the Attorney General makes that request. B, require the defendant to return to and remain at their place of residence at specified times. C, require the defendant to abstain from the consumption of drugs except in accordance with a medical prescription, of alcohol or any other intoxicating substance. This is crazy. This is happening on our north border, an open border. We have Canadian cars driving all over South Florida every winter, and this is real life right now in Canada. Now let's read real quick. I just want to read some highlights from this. This is on the Real Truth Network, written by Andrew Rochaudas. Canada is under attack. You have to realize this by now. We have been infiltrated at the highest levels of government. Everyone talking to you on the TV is paid by our infiltrated and or corrupt government. You are told what to think, and you are told what to believe, and you are told how to act, and you obey. Nortel was the most powerful internet company in the world, handling 70% of the world's internet traffic. They were the jewel of the tech world, and they were Canadian. Starting in 2004, Nortel began being infiltrated by the communist government in China. Using all of the intellectual property stolen from Nortel, Huawei was born. Huawei proceeded to bid against every Nortel opportunity, and using their own technology, by 2009, Nortel was bankrupt. Canada was the global leader in technology. Now those billions of dollars and ultimately hundreds of thousands of high-paid, highly skilled employees, along with the world-leading Canadian technology, now belongs to China. Trudeau has committed our 5G infrastructure and network contract to Huawei. Yes, the same Huawei who infiltrated and bankrupted Nortel. Trudeau is literally paying and rewarding China for stealing Canadian technology, stealing billions of dollars from our economy, and stealing hundreds of thousands of high-paying jobs from our country. As a result, this prompted the U.S. president to threaten to line our borders with U.S. military. Even though the U.S. president has backed off this threat for now, you must understand that the rest of the world is very well aware Canada is falling to communist China. No one is going to help us if we allow this to happen. Remember Hong Kong. Now ask yourself, what happened to Hong Kong? First thing the communist government of China did was infiltrate Hong Kong at the highest levels. Remember their rhetoric, quote, 2 systems, 1 country? They then marketed, via their government-controlled mass media, justifications for their army to be present on Hong Kong's soil. Ironically enough, Justin Trudeau, under the Foreign Investment Protections Act, signed in 2019, has approved that the Communist government of China is permitted security forces on Canadian soil without requiring Canadian, quote, knowledge or consent. The, quote, validation is to protect Chinese government-owned assets, meaning their Huawei assets in Canada. So effectively, we allowed Huawei to steal Nortel technology, bankrupt them, sell that technology back to us, and now guard those assets on their own soil with the People's Liberation Army of China. That's insanity. Communist China does not tolerate freedom, and although communists always penetrate with verbiage like, quote, privilege or, quote, systemic racism or, quote, diversity inclusion, you must understand that these are just weapons to seed division, fear, and hate. Once they take control, the first thing they do is imprison or kill the groups and ethnicities they do not like. Hashtag Uyghur Muslims. This is crazy, guys. We really need to keep an eye on what's going on in Canada right now. Despite their draconian lockdown issues and all that stuff, we need to focus on their social media, their ability to communicate with one another freely, the ability for them to know what's going on in the rest of the world. This is really scary. Canada is literally on the verge of a state-run media. This isn't even taking into account all the farmland they're buying up across Canada and the United States. I see this being a major, major problem moving forward. And here's the biggest problem is countries in the Western world, we think about the immediate implications of things. China's been planning this for decades, maybe longer. All right, guys, that's all I got. Stay frosty. God bless each and every one of you. God bless America. Make the fortune cookie country pay for this.
The difference between hate speech and speech that you hate.